All right. Good morning and welcome to the Employability Skill Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover a different topic with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I am your host, Megan Morrow, Senior Associate Director of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. And today I have Jovan Reyes, Dean, Early College and Student Engagement at Polk State College, as my guest. And we will be discussing the importance of embracing mistakes and accepting the consequences in the workplace. So look at him laughing. He's like, oh, I know all about mistakes. So welcome, Jovan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a lot of cursive on that form you got there. I don't
Isn't
know if
that
students
pretty?
know. Yeah, I mean, do
Yeah.
students know cursive anymore? I mean,
Sure. We're do they not? And if not, they're learning. I know it's a lost art. It's a lost art. Well, welcome,
it is.
Yovian. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, first of all, for those of you that don't know, this is my good friend and former colleague. Yovan actually used to be the senior associate director here at Florida Southern. He was very well known. So if you don't know him, that must mean that either you had your head in the sand or you just got onto campus and you missed him. But so welcome, Yovan. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started in our topic.
Myself. All right. So I've been here at Polk State for about 6 months now. The long title just means that I work with three collegiate high schools here on the college campus, which is really weird. If you can imagine Florida Southern having high schoolers around your campus, that's what I deal with. So it's pretty wild. So they take high school classes here, but they also take college classes. So some of them will graduate, or majority of them will graduate with an AA degree or close to it by the time they graduate high school. Um, it's been a big push for Polk County for dual enrollment, which is one of the other things I do is I lead all dual enrollment in Polk County. I also work on the civic literacy requirement here, which I don't think you guys have. It's a state requirement that the state school system has to go by. And what else do I do? I supervise the libraries and testing centers here. I do a bunch of stuff that's just kind of random. I worked at Florida Southern College for about 3.5 years before this role. Um, I actually hired Megan to take the role that I first started with as an associate director in the School of Business, teaching the business professional development class. And then when I got promoted to senior associate director, that's when she came in. And then when I left now, they promoted her again because that's how I roll. I'm pretty awesome. I hire great
Following
people.
footsteps.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the big things you want to do, right? You want to train and hire and get people to do better than you, or to fill the spots that you leave behind. And Megan has done a phenomenally exceptional job. If anything, she's actually done better than I have. In terms of teaching the class. Okay, I'll give you that. I'm not a great professor. But event coordinator, planner, that's where I shine.
Yes, you did. You did a great job. And we do. We miss you here. I definitely miss your energy. And I just don't have somebody to pick on as often anymore. So I have to Meredith has stepped in. Her and I do some fun banter. So
Yeah.
she's definitely picked up the slack since you pieced out on us. But no, so super excited for you and your new role and everything. It does sound pretty varied and eclectic, and you got lots of things going, lots of moving parts going on over there.
And that's always been something that I've always looked forward to doing with a position. Ever since undergrad, I never left college really. I started off in a small state school in Connecticut and doing student activities, worked at Walmart at the same time and um, just never left. I've been in a bunch of different roles and every time I've done a different professional role, I've always wanted to add or include things that I love to do. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, it says love what you do. Because the second part to that is if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I try to have fun, sometimes too much fun, which is part of the mistakes. But I try to have fun at what we do because a lot of work is you're here 40, 50, 60 hours a week for some of us, and that's a large majority of your life. So you got to love the people you work with a little bit. They're still colleagues. They don't have to be your friends, but it does help to have a personal relationship so that you can de-stress a little bit because the things that you do at work can be a little bit can be a little tough. Sometimes you bring home to work, sometimes you bring work to home, and it's hard to keep those lines kind of separate, but they blur into each other. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. Like I said, I always try to do other things that make me happy. And being with the students has always been a joy of mine. So that's why I always try to be an advisor of some group or go on these field trips or take people to different conferences and things like that. So always try to do something different.
Awesome. No, I'm glad that you made that comment because I talk about that a lot in class. When the students are starting to look for internships and post-graduation full-time employment, that it's not just the task or the duties that they'll be doing, and it's not just the salary, but it's also who you work with and having that good workplace culture fit, which will lead into a good work-life balance fit because we spend the
Right.
majority of our waking hours here at work. And if you're miserable, and I know you've heard this story, and I know my students have heard the story of like that one job that I had for a year where it was just I worked under a tyrant and I couldn't even enjoy my weekends just because I knew I had to go back. And it
Right.
was just kind of that miserable and it was just the workplace culture. So it's not worth it to run yourself into the ground like that for basically, as I call it, like false loyalty, because, people can and move on. I mean, you prime example, you a better opportunity came along for you and you did what was best for you. And people come and go and they have to do what's best for their families or somebody else on the call that's going to do the same thing. And we support, even if it's hard for us. But, like if you have, and that's a good thing too, when your team is upset, that somebody's moving on, that's actually a very good thing. So I
Yeah.
would say, we've got a good thing going there. So thanks for all that insight, Jovan. But let's go ahead and jump into our topic about embracing mistakes and accepting the consequences. So you kind of joked as you were saying, like that's one of the mistakes. So let's talk about mistakes in the workplace.
My biggest one that I share with students is that it was my first professional job after grad school, and some people say that they burned bridges, and I tell people that I literally burnt the entire kingdom around me. It was
Yikes.
more than bridges, more than everything. I was young, kind of. I worked at a place for about 8 years, 8.5 years, and I felt like I was entitled to a role or a position that I thought I should have gotten the job for. Um, it's actually happened to me at every job I've ever worked at, actually, where I've gotten an associate director or senior associate director role and then became interim of a director, but then didn't always the bridesmaid, never the bride type of deal, where you just don't get that next step. And it could be for a various number of reasons. And this particular reason, I thought, I was doing the job, I was doing awesome. I thought they wanted me, and um, my first interview with them was a phone call. It wasn't even though everyone was on campus, and I can literally see the office from my window of where they were interviewing me from. It was a phone call. It was about a half hour, meeting, and then the provost came by, stopped by, and said, "Look, we love you. We want you to stay here, but I can't give you the director job. Like I can't have you go further than this phone call interview that you had." And so I had to stick around and interview all these people to come in and be my boss. And I wrote a scathing, essay
Uh-oh.
that went from, to the provost, to the president, to HR. I was pretty upset. And I did not need to do that. Once you put things in writing, it's hard to take back because you can't.
Correct. No.
I guess what we say once it's social media, if it's a picture, a video, back then social media was a thing, but it wasn't, so I wrote some stuff and went to everybody and I tried to walk back on those things, but I already broke the relationships. I already tore apart. I was upset. I was angry. And I shouldn't have handled it that way. I did go to a lot of people. I went to a lot of mentors and I got advice and they told me not to. And I was hell bent on still doing what I thought was right, because I felt like I was slighted. And
Okay.
even though I was, that doesn't, I shouldn't have done it that way. I should have been a better person about it. And, you know, so yeah, I burnt that kingdom. And I go back from time to time. I still have a lot of friends there. A lot of, they're here in Tampa. So they, and we talk about it from time to time. It's a joke, a running gag in a way. And so I still kept the connections, but I lost what I created, and I don't. I can probably go back at some point, but I've had to pivot and kind of move in other directions
Yeah,
along
being
the
in
way.
the years is a long time to be somewhere and then to, like you said, just kind of burn it down. So,
Yeah.
big mistake, big mistake. So, what was your takeaway from that? Like, where do you feel like you learned from that so that you won't make that mistake again?
I think the biggest part is I needed to kind of acknowledge that I made the mistake. I shouldn't have been making excuses or blaming other people. As much as, I should have accepted more responsibility, and I should have probably seen the direction that the university wanted to go in at the time. I was more in it for me. I was upset about myself and about what was going on. And even though I tried to apologize, there was just nothing you can do um, with the damage that I caused. So, because usually that's what you want to do. You want to apologize and try. So I set up meetings, and I tried to. The president wouldn't. I saw the president not that long ago before he retired, last summer. And he remembered the whole thing. He said his wife and him, like they loved me and he was sorry about everything that happened. But so he appreciated me reaching out and trying to mend things. But the way that I did it just and don't don't put it in writing. There's some stuff that needs to go in writing, but when you're trying to make a point, that's not exactly what you want to do, especially not to HR.
No, I would say not. So big mistake on your part, but you're owning it and everything. So the
Yeah.
consequences of that is, you burn the bridge. So, but I'd also like to point out the fact that just because you made this like, big massive mistake early in your professional career, still did not, you're not a bad guy. You're not a bad person. You made a bad choice for sure. And I think that's something that our students need to hear, that mistakes are, first of all, that's part of life. And I firmly believe that if you're not making mistakes, I mean, you're just not living because you can't possibly, no one's perfect. No one is perfect. We're going to be emotional. We're going to, like you said, feel like you're doing something one way, but you go about it the wrong way, and even if you do try to apologize and people don't accept it or you can't like take it back, you're still owning it. You still grew as a person from that. And I think that's important to understand that, that we are going to make mistakes, but it's okay to say, to embrace it and be like, okay, yes, I screwed up. And for
Mm.
you, the consequence was that you could not move forward in that role, at that time. And then after the decisions you made, you definitely couldn't move forward. So you had to leave and find a different job, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I left the state, to be honest. I moved to Virginia. We figured this was a good time to try something new and different. We had little kids at the time, and that's a lot of stress too. I supported the family for a long period of time. Not as like the man's job to do it. It was just that that's where my wife's stage was in her career. She didn't have her master's yet, and she waited for me to do my master's, and so that's where we progressed there. Then we had kids, and so we had to put her career on hold, and so my career was the main focus. So we actually moved to Virginia for a better paying job and things like that. We wanted to try something new. We thought Virginia was cool, and it was on the East Coast, but we lived on the West Coast of Virginia, and so and it's cool if you like the mountains and stuff, and constant rain. Then it's a good time. But it was just, yeah. So we did gave it the good old college try. Moved to Virginia, did it for a year. It was an awesome experience. Still have friends from there, even only after a year, and then came back to this is home for us. Valrico is our place. So I was blessed to I got at Hillsborough Community College. I was a project manager for a $5 million grant, which was the largest grant at the time at HCC. So I was able to be a project manager for that. That worked out. And then I ended up at Florida Southern after that. And now I'm a dean. It's crazy. It's literally the craziest story of all time. I got my doctorate so I can do what I do right now. If I can do it, literally anyone can do it. I am
Very
the
true.
epitome of not being a scholar in the classroom. It's really just time and money, really, which
Yeah,
is all loan money, But and those are the things. Those are the those are the things the decisions that you make, and then live by those. You kind of figure it out as you go along. But yeah,
absolutely.
without having that big mistake, I wouldn't be where I am now, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not really big on cliches, but I do believe that things happen for a reason, and that windows and doors open and close, and things that we think would be great opportunities. Like for example, like right before I came to Florida Southern, I interviewed for an HR position, and I literally thought this was it. This was the dream job. I was so super excited about it, and I was heartbroken when I got the call to say, "Hey, we loved you, but we're going to go with a candidate who just has more." HR experience because I just don't have any, even though my master's is in industrial organizational psychology and in that realm of human resources and training and development. They're just like, you just don't really have any because I spent 20 years teaching in the classroom, right? And I
Mhm.
was I was devastated. I was like, what do I mean, I was even willing to take a $20,000 less that I had said I wanted because I wanted the job so bad. And they were just like, no, we're not gonna let you do that. But just, something else is better. And literally the next day I got the call, or the next couple days, oh my God, I got the call to interview here. And then it was like, oh, thank gosh, because I would have turned the interview down, if
Yeah,
I had gotten the other job. And I'd have been like, oh,
right.
I'm at my happy place. And to me, the mothership has called me home. Like, I love being here. This is it. I get to do all the fun things, and it's a great team. But yeah, so going back to, the consequences and mistakes and everything, because like it's so important. And I'd love to hear you say this, just saying that you owned it, that you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have blamed other people. And that's part of maturity and growth and just emotional intelligence to be able to say, yeah, I did screw up. You're not blaming anybody. You're not kind of, like pretend like it didn't happen. You're just like, yeah, I made this big mistake, and here's the consequences. But also, consequences don't always have to be bad. The
Yeah,
positive consequences that you are now where you are happy and thriving, and I get to see you once a month on your campus, and actually, if you look out your window, you'll be able to see my new houses is being built in your backyard. So that's so
that's true.
fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I would like for you, can you tell me about maybe a time, whether it's you personally or something that you have seen in the workplace, like where maybe somebody wasn't able to accept the fact that, like it was their mistake and they weren't actually able to embrace that and accept the consequences, and kind of how maybe that negatively impacted the person or the team?
Yeah, I was gonna go back to myself again. Like I had to
Okay.
move out of the state.
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
true. You nerd.
um, yeah, I know, right? But no, I mean, no, I have seen that where people get stuck, and I'm working with a couple colleagues here actually, where they're in, decent positions. They're great people, but they're just kind of stuck in the way that they're doing things, or they're not owning up to the way that they're handling the situation per se. And I'm trying to give them like mentor them a little bit and kind of figure that out. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They give me the lip service in the front end, but in the back end, what they do is different than what they hear or what they say. And so they're kind of stuck in that position. They can't really get out of it. They're not growing. They're not. I would assume they'll probably leave sooner or later because they're not going to be able to have any mobility. They're kind of losing friendships along the way with the way that they're kind of handling things. Um, and that's kind of a problem. I mean, because you want to reflect, you want to seek feedback, you want to have these mentors and to kind of help you focus on solutions. But sometimes people just have, and this was me at that first job. I was like I said, I was just hell bent on. I thought I was 1,000% correct. I was wrong, right? They were wrong. There was nothing I could change my mind. Even though I had all these other people telling me that I was, even though I was right, I was still wrong.
Right. Mhm.
So and that's the part. Trying to change someone's mind is very difficult. Especially when they're very, very confident in themselves and what they believe.
Yeah,
So,
very true. Yeah, but again, just the ownership though alone, and this is something I would like for the students on the call to hear. You are going to make mistakes 100%. It's just life. It is absolutely just life. Unless you've got your head in the sand and you're just coasting, you're going to make mistakes. And but to own it, and I'll even use examples in my classroom. My grading policy, I assign something, they have an entire week to turn it in. And then it's due at 11:59. And then at 12 o'clock, it's now late. And then I keep it open for an additional week for 50% credit. Now, things can and do happen. And I tell you, even though I don't bend my policy, but the respect that I have for somebody who will come to me and say, hey, Professor Morrow, I just want to let you know that I have to submit this late. It's totally my fault. It slipped my mind. I forgot whatever. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm acknowledging, oh, just lost my light. That I'm acknowledging the fact that, that it's my fault and I fully accept the 50%, cut on the grade. And I was like, wow, great. I commend you. And then I get some that are like, oh, hey, it's not my fault. The Wi-Fi was spotty or my computer crashed. And again, not taking any responsibility whatsoever. And it's like, well, you had a whole week. Why are you waiting? And I do this every semester, at the beginning of it. And when I talk about my grading policy, I said, don't if you're waiting until the day it's due, the minute it's due, you are you're risking tech issues, not feeling well, anything can and does happen. And if you're waiting till 11:30 at on the the 12th hour trying to turn it in, and then your computer crashes, and they're going to come to me and be like, "Oh, psh, not my fault, my computer crashed," and it's like, well. That's not going to work in the workplace because if my boss gives me a deadline for a job or a project or something, and then I just throw my hands up and be like, so sorry, hate it for you, couldn't get to it, like she's not going to have a whole lot of respect for me either, nor is she going to want to continue to trust me with projects and initiatives versus I can go and say, hey, this is all me. I dropped the ball. I apologize. I take full ownership. Let me fix it. And almost like, kind of coming to this, to the table with a potential solution will also be so beneficial as our students are embarking into, the professional world for the first time. You can't blame your parents anymore. You can't blame your roommates. You can't blame, your teammates for not, you got to take full responsibility.
yeah. And you brought up respect and trust. And for those of us that have kids, like that's a huge thing, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm getting it. I got into an argument with my 15-year-old this past Monday. And so I was like, dude, if you just owned up to it, if you just talked to us about it, it'd be fine. Like you wouldn't be grounded this week. Like everything would be cool. As bad of a thing that you did, like it would have been fine if we just talked it out.
Mhm.
And you just owned up to it. But there, the respect and trust among colleagues, around friends and things like that, like that's huge for all of us. That's kind
Absolutely.
of the basis of a lot of what we foundationally believe, to kind of build our friendships off of. So.
Absolutely. Well, then let's go ahead and pivot to a positive story then. Can you think about a time where maybe you had to counsel someone, advise someone, or that maybe you saw on your team, or whether it was you, or, where there was a kind of a pivotal mistake or something that, and they took the ownership, and how did that positively impact the team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my last year at FSC. I didn't get the
We're all
director
going,
job.
oh.
I didn't get the director job as you all know, and but I did well. Like I thought I did well. I kept it in, and a big part of that helped me though was Aaron though. Dr. Miskowski was a huge part of that. She brought me in. We talked it out. Whenever I had problems, we talked it out. Like having that person there, whether it be a supervisor or another colleague, to just be honest and open and have great discussion with you. Um, not to be as a mentor or anything, but just to be there,
Mhm.
helped me out tremendously. She gave me the autonomy to kind of run what I had to do, and so um, I didn't feel uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I was in a bad position. I didn't feel like I hated the institution and everyone around me. I was upset, yeah, but I still did my job, and I didn't write any letters, and moved forward, and that's how I got the position I'm in now. It's just
Mhm.
I didn't make any quick, harsh judgments what situation I was in. So I think that was kind of helpful in that regards. But no, there's a lot of positive stories on that I have kind of with people that just kind of go through these situations. But it's just a matter of them listening, but then also following through. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest part. A lot of us hear what's going on, and some of us listen a little bit, but following through is the tougher part. Because your emotions do get the best of you. That's the hardest thing to learn. And I guess I don't really, maybe it's a maturity thing. You don't really think about this stuff. You don't really reflect. You don't really figure it out until you get a little bit older. Maybe
Mhm.
it's what it is. I mean, I got these gray hairs for doing something, so it's all those mistakes I make.
You're naming, that's what I do. I name mine. I'm like, oh, there's Caleb, there's Hayden. Like, there's some students in there.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yep.
absolutely. No, wonderful. I mean, just, I love this topic, because it just, I mean, this is not just in the workplace, but in life and your relationships, with parents. I mean, because the same thing, I tell the same thing to my children too. Like, hey, if you guys make a mistake, come to me. Like, when they were little, like if you spill grape juice on the white carpet, like come tell me and let's try to fix it before it sets in. Don't like, put a towel over it or pull the couch over it. And then now it's this, the stain is set in place and now it's worse, like what you were dealing with yours. Like if you
Yeah.
just own it, if you just accept it, and my children are not perfect by any means, but I will say like when I do have to call them out and correct them, I mean, it's like, oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. Like my oldest, my 18-year-old who's getting ready to embark on the world, and he'll say, you know what? He's like, you're absolutely right, Mom. He's like, I thought I was thinking about it and I just walked out the door and totally forgot. It might be something small, it might be something big, but I'm like, okay, but how would you feel if I forget? Like, I forget to, buy the things that you asked me to, or I forget to, do the, and he's like, oh yeah, yeah, I get it. So like he owns and takes responsibility, which makes me feel, all warm and fuzzy, like, okay, that's maturity to be able to say,
Yeah.
yep, I can't blame anybody. I can't say anything. This is all on me. And that's something I want the students to kind of walk away from is, don't beat yourself up either. Like when you make mistakes and even if they have some pretty significant consequences, please don't move out of the state. Please don't drop out, don't quit your job and or drop out of your classes and move out of the state. But reflect on it. We grow in the discomfort when we're willing to look back and then reflect and say, okay, what could I have done better? Be open to feedback and don't beat yourself up. Be like, okay, I made this mistake. It is what it is. Let's put it aside. Let me grow from it and let me move forward. But just don't make those same mistakes because then you're not learning, right? If you're still writing
Yeah.
letters at this point, Yovan, then it's smack you around a little bit. Which
Yeah, it's true, it's
I
true.
volunteer. I volunteer as tribute if
But
ah.
yeah, I mean, being you talk about comfortability, and that's my new quote. Kind of, I think this past year, I feel like it's been a year already, I guess. But being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
um, that's been that's been kind of life changing for me in a way. It's mostly in social situations, where I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, but. Because I can like if we have a bunch of business students usually, negotiation of salary
Oh,
and things like that.
yeah.
That's kind of an uncomfortable position to be in. But don't make the mistake of not negotiating. You just gotta be comfortable with it.
Yep.
It's hard to talk about money and benefits and things like that, but it's for you and you just gotta do it. You don't want to make the mistake of not, because you never know. If you don't ask, you just don't know.
Right.
And that goes for any situation, not just negotiation. But I'd usually talk about that with like credit card. Like if you're late on a credit card thing, or usually they'll let you get like a grace period. They'll give you like um, something in advance. And then like with your assignments, for instance, you said as long as you kind of talk about it with you can get a little bit of grace.
Case by case, for sure. But yeah, if you just stick your head in the sand and just say, oh well, or blame other people, then you're definitely not going to get anywhere in life by that, end of story.
Yeah.
We are coming up on our time though. I just wanted to thank you again for taking some time out of your day. I know with all the things you do have going on, especially high school students, whew, your hands are very busy and very, very full. So Thank you so much for taking the time. Do you have any like kind of last parting words of wisdom or advice for our students as they kind of internalize this whole embracing mistakes and accepting consequences?
Um, there's Yeah, I still have it. There's one book that, because we got business students usually on here. So like Good to Great. I've had this since 2004, I think it is. It's Jim Collins, and um he talks about productive failure. And how it can lead to uh like if you have productive failure, it's better than unproductive success. And like when you start thinking about that stuff, you're like, what? So he talks about like Southwest Airlines and how like their stock ticker is love, LUV. Like little things like that on how like these little things can like make a big culture change. But if you have productive failure, that means you're doing something right. You're learning from mistakes. If you have unproductive success, like you're just not moving forward in any way. Um, so I really like that book, and I don't read a lot of books. So if I can impart any wisdom, Good to Great's pretty good on that one. And then for the Ted Lasso fans in here, they talk about the happiest animal on earth is a goldfish. Do you know why?
Because they're just in their bowl swimming around in circles, oblivious to the world.
Kind of, sort of, but they only have a 10-second memory, right? So just move forward, like forget about what happened. And there's another sports reference, like a basketball play or a football play is only like 10 seconds long. Don't let 10 seconds mess up the other hour and a half of the game. Just if you make a mistake, it's okay. Just move forward. Learn from it, live by it, and then just, you know, keep moving forward in a positive direction. And you always have options.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. Learn, accept it, embrace it, accept the responsibility, and then put it away. Put it to bed, move on, grow. Don't make the same mistakes, but don't sit there and beat yourself up either. So,
right.
wonderful topic, wonderful guest. You are missed. I will tell you, you are missed. We do still miss you and think about you. And I can't. There's nobody with Funkos in their office that I can go mess them up
Oh,
and
you see them
go.
all up there?
I see all your toys. Yes, I have no one that I can. I need to make a new friend, but I have access to their office if I need. Hey, Aaron, can you help me out with that? Give me some swipe access so I can go into people's offices. But thank you so much. Students, thank you for joining us today. Please make sure that you scan the QR code for your attendance or click the link I put in the chat pod. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can always connect with Dr. Jovan Reyes on LinkedIn as well. He loves to, continue to keep these relationships going. And so we're all here for you. And thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right,
Thank
guys. Thank you.
you.
Have a great day, everybody. Good to see you.
Hey, Meredith, how are you?
Good, good. Good to see you.